Hey guys, new to book channel. This video is going to be a little different, something I want to try out. Don't know if I'll keep doing it or not, but it's basically where I'm just going to pose a question, tell you how I feel about the question, and would like to hear back from y'all. This one, be the first one, it's basically going to be this way. I have two books here. I have one book that I've read and one book that I have not read. And basically the question is, or my statement that I'd like to hear back from y'all will be, whereas this book that I've read, I've come to really enjoy. It's almost probably up there in the top 2 or 3 of my favorite books of all time. It'll probably be hard to be surpassed. That being said, this book I've never read. I have no clue what it's about. And for that reason, this book will always be my favorite book. Now, there's a quote by William Shakespeare that goes like this: "We know what we are, but not what we may be." And I feel like that goes good for books as well. I know what this book is. I know everything about this book. I know all the characters in this book. I know the outcome. I know the goods, the bads, the uglies. What this book is, because I've read it, is what it will always be. Because I've not read this book, the limit to its potential is not there. It has infinite possibilities of what it can be. It could be any type of book, any form of book, any type of characters in here. The plot could be anything, and the outcomes are limitless as well. And for that reason, I like this book the most. This has the chance of being the best book I've ever read, and until I read it, it will always be that way. There's a certain book out there, it's called The Unexpected Journey of Harold Fry. It's where a man gets a letter from a friend that's dying. And he leaves on a journey across the country to go visit his friend. And he feels that as long as he's on a journey to visit his friend will be alive. And it's kind of like this: as long as I don't read this book, it will always have the potential of being the best one I've ever read. A couple situations for that. This has the underdog appeal to it, whereas this book is a champion already in my heart because I've read it. This book is the underdog. It has to compare to the champion as I'm reading it. It has a lesser chance of beating out the champion because of such a strong love for the champion that I like to root for the underdog. And for its underdog appeal, again, it just adds to how much I like the unread book. The joy of anticipation, the build up to the read, the thought process I go through when I'm looking at this book, thinking what it could be, just adds to my anticipation of reading this book and the mystical aura about it of how great this book is going to be. My enjoyment is never confined to a set structure. This book, because I've read it, has a set structure to it. My enjoyment of the book will be confined to the limits of the pages. What happens in this book, the plot, the stories, and what happens to the characters happened to the characters. If someone dies or if someone doesn't marry, that's how it's going to be. You can't change that. And with the unread book, its structure is not set. I can have any amount of characters. They can do anything I want them to do, as long as I don't read it. Always enjoyable. This book will never let me down. The unread books, I'll never know the ending. It will always, and for that, it will always be the best ending possible. I hate reading a book and just to find at the end that it's completely let me down of what I thought the book should be. Seeing an unread book on my shelf brings about good feelings and thoughts of what could be. It builds up anticipation for the read. When I'm in my room going to sleep or waking up and I see this unread book on the shelf, I think about the joy that it's going to bring me when I can read this book. And knowing that joy just makes me have a good day. With a read book, I don't really have the same kind of reactions. I see the book and I know that I had a good time reading that book. But that is a past time, and there's just thinking about things in the past are a little more difficult for me than thinking about what could be in the future. when I read a book, it affects me on many levels. It could affect me mentally, it could affect my behavior, it can affect my character and how I react to things. Books will change you as you read them. It might be consciously, it might be subconsciously, or unconsciously. But if you read a book, it's going to have an effect on your life for the good or for the bad. And whereas a read book will have a certain effect on me that I will have to deal with, an unread book's potential is limitless. It has unlimited potential to affect me in a good or bad way. And that factor of the unknown is a great journey for me to go through. I really love the anticipation of trying to figure out how will I be affected by this book. I think it's always been this way for me, but I could tell you for sure there's one book in particular, especially a book series, that really made me feel this way. And I don't want to get anybody mad at me, but the book series was the Harry Potter series. I started the Harry Potter series years ago when they first came out. It was, don't get me wrong, it's a great series. I really like the Harry Potter books, and I really like what they've done for the community of book reading. I feel like it got a lot of people into reading books. But as I'm going through the series, my anticipation of the final book is growing and growing and growing. And each time a new book comes out, I tend to like it more than the previous. And then the final book comes out, and I'm going through the book, and my anticipation of what should happen at the end of the book is building unsubstantially. It's doubling each page until where I am filled with so much enjoyment and so much pride of finishing this book and knowing what's going to happen. I just can't hold it in anymore. And then I get to the end of the book, and I couldn't tell you for a certain reason why, but the end of the book really distressed me. I really did not like how she finished the book. And for me, being let down after so many years of reading the stories, after such a long anticipation and build-up of enjoyment and wanting to finish these books, I had to deal with the end of the book. And for me, unfortunately, I did not like the end of the book. And now I have to deal with the reality that these books are done, and that is the ending of the book. And I sat there and I thought, well, if I had never read the ending of the 7th book, the possibility of it ending how it should have ended in my thoughts would always be there, and I would have, to this day, still really loved and enjoyed the Harry Potter series. A couple notes here finally. First, my joy is highest and most possible with totally unread books. That's not even reading the first page. And as I read it and I go through the pages and I get about halfway, I still have that ability to not finish the book. And I still have somewhat of a joy and somewhat unlimited possibilities of how it should end. Now, my joy of the unlimited possibilities goes down the closer I get to the end of the book, until it's done. That being said, it starts out unlimited, unread, and kind of goes down toward the end. And then where I'm faced with having to deal with the end of the book, either I liked it or not, and how it's going to affect me. And I tend to like not knowing much more than knowing. I do know someday I'm going to eventually have to read this book. Someday this book will lose its place as my most favorite book of all time and be read. At that point, I will consciously or unconsciously or subconsciously put this book to a set of parameters and measure it against my favorite book or my favorite books. Once done that, it's going to be rated in my mind and have a place in the middle somewhere of all the books that I have read. I do understand that, and it's going to happen. But when that does happen, I do know that the number of books out there are in such a vast number that I will never be able to read them again, and I will have another unread book to take its place. I say this because I like the thought of having an unread book. I like knowing that this potential is unlimited, and for that reason, these will always be my favorite books. I kind of describe it as being like a hunter getting ready to go hunting. I think for a lot of hunters, uh, going hunting and getting ready for it, the preparation, the cleaning, the clothes putting on, the packing the car, the hiking to the stand, the putting up the stand, the waiting, all the enjoyment in the hunt comes before the actual kill. And once the kill is done, the hunt's over. And you have to deal with the reality once again that now I have the end of the hunt. Or shopping. People really like to shop. It is the joy of shopping, looking for bargains, looking what there is, and then you have to give money to the cashier. And the shopping is done. Other things like that would be medical results or going to a doctor. If you don't go to a doctor, your possibility of being sick is very high. Your possibility of not being sick is just as high. But until you go to the doctor, you can tell yourself you're not sick. Medical results, waiting for medical results, good or bad, until you get those results, it's limited potential of what those results could show you. And until you read them, you could have any disease or not have any disease. It really frees your mind to just wonder and do whatever it wants to do. There are drawbacks to my thought process. I tend to get anxiety when I have to choose a new book to read for the first time. If I have a group of unread books, I tend to get a little anxious in choosing one because I don't want to ruin what I've built up in my mind, how good this book is. I must make a decision that limits the book and its possibilities of what it could be. I have to give up an unread book, the know joy, and gamble with if I'll like it, love it, or hate it. I enjoy the journey of reading the book so much, though, that it does tend to overweigh that I will eventually read it. But as I do not read it, as it goes unread, I lose that amazing journey of going through and discovering what this book is. This issue becomes void for me if there's a certain author that I like Chuck Palahniuk. He's got so many books out there, and they're all kind of similar. That once I get a new book from him, the joy for me is not unreading the book, but to read the book to see what it's like because I've known that author. Or like in a series, the books in a series for me don't really hold that mysticism of being unread until I get to the final book. I know that we're all different here. I know that my views might not be the same as yours, or my thoughts would definitely not be the same as your thoughts. So I would really like all the people that sub to me. If y'all want to, it's up to you. You feel no obligation to do this. Or if you don't sub to me, I like to hear from y'all too. But throw me back a video response or just comment below about how you feel about this topic. I really love to see how everybody else in the booktubing community feels about this topic. So hope this was a little thoughtful for you, and hope you got something out of it, and makes you want to read more or not. So I'll be talking to y'all later.